snatched from the doorstep of his luxury home just off the Bayswater Road. Police immediately sealed off the area, but the kidnappers had got away. Detectives believe a gang of armed men had been waiting for some time for Mr. Dikko to emerge from this door.
Witnesses have told the police that as he left his house, Mr. Dikko was grabbed by two black men and bundled into the back of a yellow transit vehicle, which was driven at speed in the direction of Bayswater.
Officers from the anti-terrorist squad took over the hunt for the kidnappers when they realized the victim's identity. Umaru Dikko, on the right here, is brother-in-law of Nigeria's ousted President Shagari. He was a minister in the Shagari government and was recently named by the new military government as top of their wanted list. Earlier this year, he told ITN he felt safe in London.
I don't feel safe from the military government. I have every reason to feel safe from the military government because I believe that the British government and the British people will not support illegality. Whatever the military junta in Nigeria would want to do, the jurisdiction does not extend to Britain.
When the military government of President Buhari took over in Nigeria 6 months ago, they accused Umaru Dikko and other ministers of embezzling billions of pounds. British police had feared for some time that supporters of this man would try to snatch Dikko and take him back to Nigeria. All British airports were checked, and tonight the hunt ended at Stansted Airport in Essex, when Mr. Dikko was found inside a crate waiting to be shipped out of the country as diplomatic baggage. He'd been drugged, but is said to be in a satisfactory condition. 2 other men were found in crates. Police say one is dead.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, of course, depending from where you're hearing my voice from. Fellow Biafran, freedom lovers, people of goodwill, men of timber and caliber, men and women of timber and caliber, it's good to come your way again. It's good to know that you're doing great. It's good, of course, to know that we're still talking about the very declared United States of Biafra. It's good to know that our people are interested to listen to us. Because, of course, we all have agreed that the USB, the United States of Biafra, the Republic of Biafra is the final goal and the final arbiter of the common man, especially from the southeast, especially of Biafran extraction. Yes, take it or leave it, Biafra is the answer. If we continue to catalog all the woes, all the sufferings, all the difficulties, and all the frustrations we face in this contraption that was amalgamated in 1914, then it will become obvious to us that yes, indeed, Biafra is the only place, is the only country, is the only region that will guarantee us a free, fair, and egalitarian society. A society where you can aspire, you can decide to achieve, you can walk your way from grass to grace. It doesn't matter who your father was. It didn't matter the humble beginnings. Biafra is the only place that can guarantee you that even though you are a palm wine tapper's son, even though you are a bricklayer's son, even though you are the son of a cobbler, you can aspire, you can aspirate to become something greater, to become something better. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not supporting the Biafra Republic, if you're not supporting the redeclared sovereign United States of Biafra, if you're not supporting Dr. Ngozi Orebweze, if you're not supporting NNAMDI KANU, if you don't feel and respect Simon Ekpa, and of course, if you don't have the Biafran DNA in you, if you don't think Biafra, if you don't speak Biafra, if you're bored to listen to Biafra, rhetorics or recordings, then of course you don't know who you are. Because of course a people without culture, a man who does not know what Biafra represents to him. Biafra is our culture, Biafra is in our DNA, Biafra is in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, brace up, brace up. The redeclared sovereign United States of Biafra is a reality and is coming to pass. We're not just engaging in vain pursuits. No, we're not just engaging in rigmarole. No, we're not just hallucination. Far from it. We are talking reality. We are talking standard reality. We are talking of what will be because the time has come. The time is now. Of course, the time is now. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have been forced to be in a contraption back to back for over 100 and over 100 and close to 20 years now, 120 years, and you still find yourself terribly misfigured, completely unhappy, and indeed, feel you're marginalized, and it's obvious you're marginalized. Feel, of course, that you're not wanted. Feel, of course, that you have been betrayed by those you work with, by those you associated with, by those who should have received you. When everybody turns their back on you because you're a Biafran, because you're from a particular region, when the laws of the land are tilted in such a way that, of course, when it comes to Fulani jihadists, they do it another pattern, giving them kid gloves. When it comes to Southwestern Yoruba fundamentalists like Sunday Igboho and Co., who preach for the Duduwa Republic, they treat them like special Pekin, government Pekin, quote and unquote. But when it comes to the man from the southeast, when it comes to somebody like NNAMDI KANU, when it comes to somebody like Simon Ekpa, when it comes to anything concerning the Igbo, certainly the whole fangs of the government machineries, yes, government machineries of the judiciary, government machineries of security operatives, they come out in their full fangs. And of course, you are sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we find ourselves. And that's why every other time, Biafra Superstars Media, we're talking about the plight of Biafrans. We're talking about the pains of Biafrans. We're talking about why is it caused to be a Biafran? Why are they always? Why this pathological hatred? Why this shame for us? Why do they treat us like an undesirable element? Why did they treat us like a wasted generation? Why do they wish us harm? Why do they proclaim a genocide over us? Why is it that every other time, every other day, anything Biafra is regarded as a closed case? Something meant to be thrown away, something to be discarded. They describe Biafrans as, of course, good riddance to bad rubbish. Anytime there's a problem on our side, every time they foster a problem on our head, they make sure a decisive action is taken to frustrate us, to annihilate us, and to, of course, treat us for us to know that we're conquered people. They call us defeated people. They say you were defeated between 67, 68, 69, 70. Don't you know, even having a name in this new Nigeria, you should be thankful. Don't you know, those of you alive from the southeast, those of you who are Biafrans, don't you know you should be thanking us? Because of course, we gave you life. If General Gowon, who is still living, who was the one who superintended the war, the Biafran war, the avoidable war, if General Gowon, he did not proclaim no victor, no vanquished. If he had said no, continue, don't you know the whole of the southeast, the whole of Biafra would have been sold with salt. Don't you know you all would have become history? There would never have been anybody who would come to them and say, still talking Biafra. In fact, one Hausa military man that I met once told me, listen, you Biafrans, you should know, you should be thankful. You know you owe your life to General Gowon. Because if he had not said, no victor, no vanquished, oh my God, if he didn't say that, Biafra could have been history. Every part of the southeast, we would have sowed salt all over it, including in the oceans, including your rivers, including on your lands. And you could have been wiped out completely. Ladies and gentlemen, that bizarre claim, that very, very negative proclamation by this retired military officer, old man, yes, he's a veteran. really shocked me because he was saying it with every eloquence. He was saying it with pride. He was saying it with pride and prejudice. He was saying it like he meant it. And he was saying it like we should be perpetually grateful, that we are perpetually indebted to General Yakubu Gowon. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk Biafra, we're not just engaging in that. We don't just want our voices to be heard. We want our people to know that we are living as endangered species. Take it or leave it. Biafrans are an endangered species. Maybe you don't know. Maybe because you didn't know the antecedents of what the Biafra war was all about. Maybe you didn't know there was a time to be an Igbo man, to be a Biafran, was to be an endangered species. Every region, including the north, including the House of Fulani, including the southwest, the typical Yoruba people, they hated us, including those in the middle belt. If somebody like Theophilus Danjuma could hit his chest and say, yes, yes, we fought the Biafra war and we fought the Igbos to a standstill. We showed Ojukwu and his likes that nothing compares to the FGN. The federal government of Nigeria. We showed them, we brutalized them. Me and Moritala took it to the heavens. We made sure we could have wiped Southeast out completely. They should be thankful. They should be thankful that we did it. Ladies and gentlemen, my audio this morning is anchored on a very powerful submission by a human rights activist. Yes, a lawyer and a human rights activist. Yes, we're still talking about Mazi Onyendu NNAMDI KANU, our veteran leader, a man who proclaimed the plight of Biafra. Of course, who articulated the situation in Biafra the way I started it with, the way I've enunciated here. This man, Mazi NNAMDI KANU, saw how it was. He saw and he wasn't happy. And of course, he spoke and he dared to speak out. And ever since he started speaking out, ever since he spoke out, because he spoke out, they have tormented him. His life has become a hell. There's no peace for him. They have made sure there's no peace for him. President Muhammad Buhari of blessed memory told him face to face, I will make your life a mystery. By the time I start dealing with you, you will pray for death. That was what PMB told him. And of course, a whole lot of people thought it was a joke, but it has become a reality because back to back now, for the past close to 5 years, he has been suffering, wallowing in the deepest agony at the DSS dungeon. Ladies and gentlemen, his health has completely deteriorated. And yet the judges of the Federal High Court, including Musa Liman, vacation judge Musa Liman, said they want to wash their hands and they have they are sending back the case file to the Chief Justice. Yes, for reassignment. The judges are back from vacation. Let another judge handle his case. Ladies and gentlemen, a human rights lawyer, Barrister Christopher Chidere has faulted the Supreme Court's judgment in the case of the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus NNAMDI KANU, describing it as unconstitutional and inconsistent with established legal precedents. Ladies and gentlemen, because of the catalog of woes that have been affected and that have been inflicted on Mazi NNAMDI KANU since, and because he dared to talk about the plight of the Igbos, he dared to talk about the plight of the Biafrans, he dared to say enough was enough. If my people will not be let to be, then let them go. If you continue to treat them like nobody, then let them move to where there'll be somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, this lawyer has come out to say indeed there should have been no trial. What is happening to Kanu today, NNAMDI KANU, is a mistrial because the Supreme Court erred. They erred. Yes, they really didn't get it right. And they have subjected this innocent man to a very furnace, what you can describe as a living dead situation. Ladies and gentlemen, a human rights lawyer, Barrister Christopher Chidera, has faulted the Supreme Court's judgment in the case of the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus NNAMDI KANU, describing it as unconstitutional and inconsistent with established legal precedents. In a statement released on Wednesday, Chidera argued that the Apex Court wrongly relied on the case of Dokubo Asari versus FRN in bracket 2007 in upholding Kanu's continued trial, insisting that the circumstances were entirely different. He insists that Dokubo's case is irrelevant. According to Chidera, the Dokubo Asari case only involved a domestic arrest and bail application within Nigeria's territory, while Kanu's matter arose from an extraordinary rendition from Kenya, which violated both international law and Nigeria's Extradition Act. The precedent, in quote, the precedent, quote, that applies here is Dikko versus State, 1987. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you remember the Umaru Dikko saga in 1987, where, of course, people loyal, mercenaries of Nigeria went to London and abducted him, kidnapped him, and tried to bring him down to Nigeria in a crate. In a crate. They gagged him, they injected him, and they put him in a crate to bring him down, ferry him down, fly him down from London. But of course, that attempt was truncated. Yes, because the British authorities, because you know who they are, they have a pathological love. They have a pathological love for the House of Fulani. And they love them even to death. The British authorities, of course, spoke then and acted then. They acted and sabotaged that kidnap of Umaru Dikko and aborted that kidnap. Yes, that was it. Even though years later, Umaru Dikko came into the country and of course, he was forgiven. Of course, he was given a national pardon. Of course, he was given national honors. Of course, he died a great personality, highly respected. This was somebody at one point who was declared wanted, dead or alive in Nigeria. But he had a soft landing. Soft landing, ladies and gentlemen, because he was not from Biafra. According to Barrister Chidera, the precedent, quote, the precedent that applies here is Umaru Dikko versus State, 1987 in bracket, where Nigeria's attempt to abduct Umaru Dikko from London was condemned internationally. That case showed clearly that courts lose jurisdiction where extraordinary rendition occurs, he said. He noted, Court of Appeal discharge should have stood. He insisted that the Court of Appeal discharge of NNAMDI KANU's case should have stood. The lawyer further criticized the Supreme Court for reversing the Court of Appeal's October 2022 decision, which had discharged NNAMDI KANU. That discharge was based on jurisdictional nullity and was final. By reviving a concluded matter, the Supreme Court acted outside its powers. A court that has become functus officio cannot reopen a dead case, Chidera stated. He also maintained that Kanu's constitutional rights to a fair hearing and protection against double jeopardy under Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution are non-derogable and cannot be suspended under any circumstance. Mr. Chidera went on to say, quote, the Supreme Court effectively allowed those rights to be sacrificed in the name of national security, which the Constitution does not permit, he said. Mr. Chidera noted that Section 1, Paragraph 3 of the Constitution voids any law or action inconsistent with its provisions, adding that the judgment runs contrary to this principle. He referenced Abacha versus Fawemi 2000. Abacha versus Fawemi in year 2000, where the court itself affirmed that the constitution overrides all other laws. Yes. The lawyer insists that the judgment is a political decision dressed as law. It undermines Nigeria's credibility before international bodies and risks eroding faith in our justice system, Chidera insisted. He called on professional bodies, including Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, and the National Judicial Council, NLC, to re-examine the ruling and uphold the integrity of the judiciary. Ladies and gentlemen, Barrister Chidera has insisted in his submissions on Wednesday, where he said it is an anathema. Barrister Christopher Chidera has said it is an anathema, an abomination that the whole Supreme Court can take the kind of decisions it took in matters concerning Mazi NNAMDI KANU. He said it is a glaring mistrial. It's a glaring abortion, if you like, of justice and the rule of law. He said there is no comparison between the stories, the cases which the Supreme Court and lawyers often quote. There's no comparison between Asari Dokubo's case, and the federal government. That there's no comparison between Asari Dokubo's case and the federal government, because of course, Asari Dokubo's case was local. Yes. According to him, according to Barrister Chidera, the Dokubo Asari's case only involved the domestic arrest and bail application within Nigeria's territory, while Kanu's matter arose from an extraordinary rendition from Kenya, which violated both international law and Nigeria's Extradition Act. There's no comparison. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about matters concerning, once again, our own Mazi NNAMDI KANU, because these are perilous times for him. These are perilous times. His health is shaking. His livers are not functioning well. His pancreatic glands are not working well. He has a low potassium rate, which means he's really in a state of, medical disequilibrium. He's not enjoying his life now. His body is not telling him the right things. His body, his organs are deteriorating. And unfortunately, he had appealed for an SOS. He had made an application, to the Federal High Court, especially under the auspices of Justice Usman Liman, for him to be granted, a move from the DSS dungeon, DSS facilities, down to the National Hospital Abuja. Of course, because he's an Igbo man. Of course, because he's a Biafran. Of course, because he dared to speak the truth. He dared the Nigerian government by saying, stop treating my people with abject wickedness. Stop pushing my people, subjugating them, marginalizing them, and stifling them to live lives beyond their capacities. Stop underfunding them. Stop underemploying them. Stop frustrating them. And stop utilizing them as though they are nobody. Stop treating them like a defeated people. And of course, if you don't want my people, then let them go. Because he dared to say these things. Because he dared to speak the truth. Of course, every time he makes an application in law, every time he makes a demand, even if his health was in danger, of course, the powers that be will make sure that appeal, will make sure that application, will make sure anything surrounding him, no matter how genuine, no matter how cogent, they make sure it doesn't see the broad daylight. Ladies and gentlemen, as at any other time, that application, because of his health, because of course he wanted to still live, because of course he didn't want to die in the DSS dungeon, because of course his life, his body, his organs were in a state of recurring decay, persistent decay, continuous, persistent, and ever recurring decay. He wanted a lease of life. He thought the court could guarantee him. He thought the Federal High Court could come to his aid. He thought, of course, that the judiciary was the arbiter, final arbiter, final succor for the common man. But alas, unfortunately, what should have been the final arbiter of the common man proved, of course, to be his highest undoing. Because of course, the three core pillars of justice, fairness, equity, and justice, turn their eyes, have been squeezed, have had their mouths sealed, sellotaped if you liked, and their hands chained, their legs in shackles. Judiciary has been sold in Nigeria, and it was sold to the highest bidder. The zoo indeed has bought the judiciary. Ladies and gentlemen, NNAMDI Kanu's appeal and his application for a consideration for urgent medical attention because of failing health was thrown overboard, thrown aside with reckless abandon. Because of course, he dared the authorities, he dared to speak for the Biafrans, for those who were treated with utmost disregard, with shame, treated as though they were not part and parcel of the foundations, super foundations of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, Barrister Chidera has said it all in his submission. Yes, the human rights lawyer, Barrister Christopher Chidera, has faulted the Supreme Court's judgment in the case of the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus NNAMDI Kanu, describing it as unconstitutional and inconsistent with established legal precedents. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's a big time. It's time we tell ourselves the truth. Fellow Biafrans, let us tell ourselves the truth. We should not act like we enjoy dining with the enemy. Because if you don't know that you are an endangered species as far as this zoo contraction called Nigeria is concerned, then I say sorry to you. Ladies and gentlemen, every Biafran's life is at stake. The same way they are treating NNAMDI Kanu, the same way they bear the way with Simon Ekpa, motivating Finland, encouraging Finland, and of course rewarding Finland to make sure he was convicted and sent to 6 years imprisonment. Ladies and gentlemen, point your hands at somebody, for is pointing back at you. Today is NNAMDI Kanu, tomorrow is Simon Ekpa, tomorrow is Dr. Ngozi Rabueze. Next tomorrow, it could be you. It could be you. It could be you listening to my voice now if we don't act now. This is the best time to tell ourselves the truth. This is the best time to support the redeclared sovereign United States of Biafra. This is the best time to let our voices be heard. We are saying these things so that our people will know the truth. The Biafrans are an endangered species. Yes, everything concerning us is treated with levity. Everything concerning us is faced with the highest level of wickedness. Everything concerning us is treated in such a way that, of course, even the deaf will hear, even the blind will see, even the dumb will speak to know that indeed these people are wanted people, they are needed people, and they are an endangered species. Ladies and gentlemen, NNAMDI Kanu's case is a case of mistrial, even by the Supreme Court. And Barrister Christopher Chidera, human rights lawyer, has come out vigorously, has come out to submit clearly, with every manner of seriousness, with evidences and affidavits, that indeed he has faulted the Supreme Court's judgment in the case of the Federal Republic of Nigeria versus Nnamdi Kanu, describing it as unconstitutional and inconsistent with established legal precedents. He said rather than be comparing it with the Asari Dokubo versus FRN 2007, they should instead treat it the same way. Yes, the same way. The only precedent that applies here is Dikko versus State in 1987, where Nigeria's attempt to abduct Umaru Dikko from London was condemned internationally. That case showed clearly that courts lose jurisdiction where extraordinary renditions occurs, he said. Ladies and gentlemen, let me pause here. I want to know what is happening latest now to our Nnamdi Kanu's health. God bless you. Bye-bye. Pray for the Republic of Biafra. Bye-bye now.
Yeah, check me out. Superstars Media. Lord Luggett, Bloomington, Lord Luggett, and it's Wild Flora Show. 1914 amalgamation is what we dying for. 3 nations to 1 nation, ever since annihilation. Nepotism is nonsense. You and you, clap your hands. Biafra gonna come, clap your hands. Biafra, Odudua, we're free now. Freedom is gonna come, we're free now. Yeah.